Welcome to the history section.
The first documented campaign in William's military career was the successful defeat of Thurston Gause, dated to approximately 1043.
The conflict was triggered by Thurston's explicit withdrawal of allegiance and, crucially, his introduction of troops supplied by King Henry I of France into the strategically vital stronghold of Falaise.
That was a direct challenge to ducal authority.
A very direct challenge. The chroniclers, particularly Jumièges, are clear that William's army, assisted by his military tutor Ralph de Gassé, fought with exceptional energy,
Suggesting a determination to establish ducal control immediately.
Thurston's underlying motivation was complex, though. It was rooted in regional instability. The research suggests his actions were fueled by the feeble support he was receiving from William's nominal guardians,
And this was exacerbated by widespread turbulence around Sées and Alençon.
which was being eagerly exploited by the opportunistic Belem family, who controlled the strategic strongpoints of Alençon and Domfront, and had recently installed Ivo, a younger son of William de Belem, as Bishop of Sées.
We have to place King Henry I's intervention into a wider geopolitical context. His military assistance to Thurston was likely a follow-up to Henry's earlier devastation near Argentan.
And while that seems hostile, Henry's interventions may have also been designed to impose some measure of stability on the region, thereby indirectly preventing a total collapse of the young William's regime that others might exploit.
By 1040, Henry's long-standing collaboration with Count Fulk-Nera of Anjou had decisively ended.
Furthermore, the dramatic and aggressive increase in Angevin power under Count Geoffrey Martel, who seized Tours in 1044, made it absolutely imperative for Henry to recruit reliable allies against this rapidly rising power to his south.
So Henry needed a stable, if subservient, Normandy.
He did. Therefore, William's campaign against Thurston Gause took on a dual significance that went beyond mere punishment.
It was a firm assertion of William's personal authority, backed by his emerging military capability.
And a clear declaration that he, not the King of France, was responsible for peacekeeping in this contested, sensitive border region of the duchy. This campaign marked William's transition from a vulnerable ward to an active participant in governance.
And the eventual resolution of this conflict also speaks volumes about the pragmatic nature of the emergent regime.
It does. Thurston Gause's conduct was ultimately not deemed an act of unforgivable treason. His son, Richard, later successfully reconciled William and Thurston, and he received more lands than his father had ever possessed.
Which demonstrates the powerful healing capabilities of the regime, the ability to reintegrate powerful, if temporarily rebellious, aristocratic families back into the ducal fold,
ensuring their loyalty through generous strategic grants.
So as William began to consolidate this personal authority, his image transformed.
Poitiers, writing retrospectively, famously recounts that the news of William being knighted spread a palpable fear throughout Francia. Despite being a mere adolescent, he was already perceived as exhibiting fully adult, formidable qualities.
A frightening and wondrous sight when armed for war.
Poitiers, alongside Jumièges, emphasized William's early commitment to piety, his deep concern for peace, and his adherence to law, claiming the young duke quickly began removing incompetent or troublesome counselors from his entourage.
And while these accounts are typical of later ducal eulogies,
They do reflect a physiological and psychological reality. William matured early and quickly asserted a commanding presence. More concretely, the documents, the ducal charters, provide evidence of the regime's functional stability.
how so?
The lists of witnesses, the signa, appearing on these documents between 1040 and 1047 were predominantly court individuals, not local magnates. This structure suggests that the authority of the young duke and his immediate entourage was considered sufficient to guarantee agreements throughout the duchy.
This inner court group provided essential continuity. It was emphatically drawn from the circles that had served William's father and grandfather.
Although generational change was obviously occurring, regularly recurring names included Archbishop Malger of Rouen, Nigel, who had the title Viscount, meaning Vicomte, a ducal administrative agent Ralph Tesson, and Godfrey Viscount of Arques.
The geographical breadth of this group is revealing, from Malger, a ducal kinsman, to Nigel, who acted as a roving agent of ducal authority in the far west of the duchy.
This continuity offers persuasive evidence that the vast majority of the Norman aristocracy either actively supported William, recognizing the political necessity of a legitimate duke, or at least chose not to actively seek his removal during his vulnerability.
Orderic, despite his later criticisms, confirms this, noting that those who sincerely wished to maintain justice and religion served William loyally through the chaos.
However, we also observe the critical emergence of William's personal protégés, signaling his assertion of individual choice over mere aristocratic consensus.
Figures like William Fitz-Osborne, Roger II de Montgomery, and Roger de Beaumont.
They began to coalesce around the young duke. It's crucial to note that these individuals were not revolutionary newcomers. They belonged to the wealthiest, ducally related aristocratic families, often linked to the ducal house through kinship to Duchess Gunner.
Roger de Beaumont, for example, first appears in charters between 1046 and 1047, likely stepping into his new role following his father Humphrey's death.
And the mere fact that these powerful figures gathered around William is remarkable, given the brutal culture of aristocratic feud that dominated the era.
Roger de Montgomery's brother, for instance, had been responsible for the death of William Fitz-Osborne's father.
Yet these men were able to put aside such deep, blood-stained grievances to serve the duke. This illustrates the impressive, if nascent, healing powers of the emergent regime.
It demonstrates that service to the ducal court could transcend even the most lethal personal vendettas.
But conversely, the rise of these favored figures inevitably marginalized others, such as the younger Nigel, leading to the internal tensions that William of Poitiers and Jumièges associated with William choosing his own, potentially divisive, counselors.
We should turn now to one of the most significant internal conflicts of this period, the Beaumont-Tosny feud.
Orderic is the only source to detail this localized war, traditionally dated around 1040, but charter evidence makes a later date, perhaps 1043 or 1044, more likely.
Because Roger de Tosny was still demonstrably alive after William had entered adolescence.
Exactly. Orderic introduced the theme that William's illegitimate birth was a source of political weakness, claiming Roger de Tosny found it intolerable to serve a bastard.
While Orderic uses the illegitimacy narrative as a generalized explanation for aristocratic rebellion, it seems an unlikely causative factor for this specific feud.
Very unlikely, given that Roger de Tosny had served the Duke since 1035 without any record of objection. A much more immediate and probable cause, which Orderic himself hints at, was simply territorial disputes.
Arising from the close proximity of the neighboring lands belonging to Humphrey de Villiers, the Beaumont family, and the powerful Tosny family in central Normandy.
It was a classic medieval land conflict, disguised as a loyalty dispute.
And these were not just any families, they were key players in the religious landscape.
They were. Both were pioneering founders of Benedictine abbeys, the Tosny family establishing Courson-en-Rouge, and Humphrey founding Le Pré. This detail confirms their high status within the religious and aristocratic elite.
And it underscores the seriousness of their conflict, as it destabilized regions with deep ducal connections.
The war concluded with a crushing victory for the Beaumont faction. Roger de Tosny, along with two of his sons, and Robert de Grandmesnil were killed by Humphrey's son, Roger de Beaumont.
Following this bloody resolution, the ducal court immediately responded with proactive, strategic intervention aimed at pacifying the feud and restoring political equilibrium.
And the resolution mechanism was marriage.
Specifically, Roger de Tosny's widow was married off to Richard, Count of Evreux, who was Ralph de Gassé's half-brother. Richard was also installed as a protector for her young surviving son, Ralph.
Similarly, Robert de Grandmesnil's widow was married to another of Ralph's half-brothers. This strategy, binding the grieving, dispossessed families into the ducal entourage through marriage, was essential for stabilizing the duchy.
And for demonstrating that the Duke's court was the ultimate manager of aristocratic violence.
This complex violence management worked, for a time. Although a revenge killing did occur later, after 1054, when Humphrey's son Robert was killed by Roger de Clare.
The fact that Clare suffered no discernible negative impact on his fortunes suggests his violence was regarded as legitimate within the existing culture of feud.
Provided it was conducted within acceptable political limits. The ducal regime was thus not eliminating aristocratic violence, but defining and managing the boundaries within which it could occur.
Let's move to the religious sphere, where we see remarkable religious continuity and the sustained strength of the episcopacy, demonstrating that the essential ducal traditions were being maintained even in the absence of a powerful, central adult ruler.
This continuity is deeply personal for William. We know from Hugh of Flavigny, a later chronicler, that William retained a vivid, important memory of meeting the renowned ecclesiastical reformer Richard, abbot of St. Van of Verdun, who died in 1046.
This reflects a deliberate effort to maintain continuity from Duke Robert's time, who had received a significant visit from Abbot Richard in 1032.
William was actively maintaining the same spiritual and reformist contacts his father had sought for guidance, suggesting the guardians were careful stewards of the ducal reputation.
Furthermore, William actively honored his father's memory and continued his policies.
His grants to his father's own monastic foundation at Cerisy-la-Forêt, dating from 1042 onwards, clearly signpost the continuation of this central aspect of Duke Robert's rule.
Crucially, this practice also provides testimony to a continuing dynamic ducal presence in the western lands of the duchy.
It effectively contradicts any notion that the Duke's authority had completely retracted into the secure Upper Norman heartlands during his turbulent minority.
The mid-1040s marked a time of profound religious prosperity and intellectual dynamism within Normandy.
This period saw the first consecration of the Abbey Church of Lebec, founded by the hermit Herluin. This rapidly expanding abbey was intellectually vibrant enough to successfully recruit the esteemed scholar Lanfranc of Pavia into its community.
The arrival of a scholar of Lanfranc's caliber provided an immense intellectual boost to the duchy, attracting future leaders and thinkers.
Other foundations reinforced this picture of religious expansion. The Abbey of Saint-Pierre-sur-Dives had its first abbot, Eynard, a German cleric, invested by William himself in 1046.
And concurrently, the rising figure William Fitz-Osbern, one of William's new protégés, founded the Abbey of Lyre in the same year, 1046.
This shows a growing early pattern of powerful ducal allies, linking their own rising status to ambitious religious patronage, mirroring the tradition of earlier dukes.
The episcopacy, in the absence of strong centralized secular power, took a significant leadership role.
Archbishop Maldre of Rouen, a kinsman of the Duke, issued a crucial synodal letter, typically dated to around 1045. This letter provided a full and carefully constructed condemnation of the evils of the times, focusing particularly on the grave sin of simony.
The buying or selling of ecclesiastical offices or spiritual goods.
The document itself is highly significant, even if its attendance list suggests fragmentation. Only 3 bishops were present: Maldre, Hugh of Evreux, and Robert of Coutances, all drawn from Upper Normandy.
However, in the wider context of conciliar legislation against simony in the French kingdom, this document is the earliest known example outside of the great peace councils of the Duchy of Aquitaine.
This demonstrates that canonical authority was being rigorously and properly deployed within Normandy.
The preamble to the canons is perhaps the most politically revealing part of the document.
It explicitly deplored the weakness of recent rulers, drawing a stark contrast with their powerful predecessors. This was an unmistakable criticism of the conduct of the adolescent William, or, more accurately, the competence of his guardians.
The letter's intent was clear: to reinforce the ethos of earlier, strong ducal rule through ecclesiastical pressure.
It also contained a notable condemnation, specifically targeting those who sought episcopal office through favor at court or influence with the prince, confirming that the ducal court, despite its instability, remained the essential hub for securing these powerful positions.
So the bishops were consciously continuing their traditional post-Carolingian role,
stepping in to criticize secular authority when it was deficient and attempting to reinforce stability through spiritual means. Malger's powerful condemnations, known as anathemas, formal ecclesiastical curses or denunciations, began appearing in several ducal charters.
This appearance was a novelty in Norman documentation, wasn't it?
It was, and it powerfully signaled the secular power's acute, recognized need for church support during this extremely volatile period.
This reliance on the church is further evidenced by the massive effort required to proclaim peace across the duchy.
While later interpreted as a single proclamation of the truths of God, the research confirms that multiple peace councils were held just before the explosive Battle of Valais-Dunes. 3 independent references confirm a specific council at Caen dating to before March 6, 1047.
And these councils meticulously followed patterns seen elsewhere across France. They involved the swearing of solemn oaths, often accompanied by the reported occurrence of miracles,
and the bringing of sacred saints' relics. The fact that the relics brought to Caen came from Rouen strongly more colorful anecdotes that relates to William himself. An account records that William insisted on delaying the dedication of the Church of Rots near Caen until he could arrive to physically carry a sacred
the spirit, and often the letter of Archbishop Maldre's synodal condemnations.
They reveal the naked reality of securing patronage over sole ducal choice during this period of weak central governance.
Yet, when we apply historical hindsight, judging these appointments requires nuance. While they were secured via influence and potentially illicit payments, none of them ultimately proved to be poor choices for the church or the duchy.
No, not at all. Geoffrey of Coutances, in particular, became one of the key administrative and military figures in the Cross-Channel Empire after 1066.
The fact that the regime, despite its weakness, maintained a respectable standard of character for its appointments, drawing from major aristocratic families, suggests this was the normal business of securing high office.
Albeit absent the strong veneer of powerful ducal authority that William would later impose.
The internal coherence achieved by the adolescent regime was, in many ways, deceptive. Throughout the mid-1040s, powerful factional tensions were accumulating beneath the surface, driving the duchy relentlessly towards civil war in 1047.
We must now closely examine the ambition of William's uncle, Count William of Arques.
As Duke Richard II's son, he was high in the pecking order. He used an explicitly pretentious and highly significant title in a charter for Fécamp, dated July 18, 1047.
William, Count by the grace of God, son of Richard II, Duke of the Normans.
This title immediately identified him as one of Les Chaudière, linking him directly to the ducal line, and the style and presentation of his documents closely resembled an independent ducal action.
While he appeared directly alongside Duke William in certain charters, indicating necessary cooperation, William of Poitiers later offered a damning assessment of his loyalty,
Suggesting the Count actively attempted to increase his lands and exclude the young Duke's authority from all of Normandy east of the Seine River.
a powerful, perhaps treasonous move towards regional autonomy.
However, a balanced view requires looking at Count William of Arques' own actions. His charters show a consistent concern for public order, extensive monastic patronage, and the restoration of property claimed lost during the Viking settlements.
This suggests a fundamentally responsible approach to his aristocratic duties for peacekeeping. Furthermore, his marriage by 1045 to a sister of Count Enguerrand II of Ponthieu served a highly strategic purpose.
By stabilizing the duchy's crucial eastern frontier.
And the strategy of cross-border marriages for geopolitical stabilization was actively adopted by the ducal court as well, notably applied to Duke William's sister, Adelaide, who was married to Count Enguerrand.
So, while Count William of Arques' actions certainly stemmed from self-aggrandizement rooted in his status as a ducal kinsman,
There's a substantial difference between ambitious loyalty on one's own terms and outright treason. The reasonable assessment is that he remained loyal, but only insofar as his personal power and ambitions were accommodated by the weak central regime.
this inherent tension led to a significant erosion of ducal influence across the duchy's fringes.
Evidence includes specific land seizures, such as those inflicted upon Bishop Hugh of Zayo by both Count William of Arques and Humphrey de Vier, which are unrecorded by the chroniclers, but visible in legal documentation.
Within the immediate court circle, we also see clear signs of internal factionalism and shifts in status among those surrounding the Duke.
Ralph de Gassé, for instance, who had been involved in the highly politically charged killing of Count Gilbert, did not long enjoy his potential profits, his noticeable absence from many charter signa.
And the subsequent punishment of at least one of Gilbert's killers
Indicates that Ralph's coup, while successful, exceeded the acceptable political limits of violence that the ducal court could tolerate.
Furthermore, Count William of Arques' self-serving actions directly impacted other loyal court figures.
His aforementioned 1047 charter for Fécamp, among other pieces of evidence, shows his personal role in reducing the status and influence of Godfrey Viscount of Rouen, a man who never recovered his earlier eminence in the ducal court.
This relentless accumulation of land seizures and the marginalization of previously loyal, high-status figures signaled deep, simmering internal tensions that were about to boil over.
Despite this internal fragmentation, by 1046 or early 1047, the regime's functional coherence had grown strong enough to project itself outward and seek support for an intervention south of Normandy.
An original charter confirms a gathering, likely held at Rouen, which was attended by Bishop Ivo of Sées and the external ally, Count Hugh IV of Maine.
Bishop Ivo's presence at this meeting strongly suggests that the Bellem family, controlling Sées, was looking to William for active support against the volatile developments in Maine.
It demonstrates the interwoven nature of Norman and border politics.
And crucially, Count Hugh IV of Maine was present because he desperately sought allies to defy the overwhelming Angevin domination being imposed by Count Geoffrey Martel.
So Hugh was actively building a counter-network, which intrinsically made the fortunes of the young Duke William highly important to the wider foreign policies of King Henry I of France.
The charter signa from this gathering is a precise snapshot of the new emergent elite coalescing around the young ruler. It included Archbishop Malger, the ambitious Count William of Arques, William's young kinsman, Count Guy of Brienne.
and William's powerful new protégés, Roger de Beaumont and Roger de Montgomery.
This list is a testament to the fragile resilience of William's regime, strong enough to survive the minority, attract allies, and project external policy, yet inherently unstable due to the rivalries among the attendees.
In summary, the cooperation achieved between these future winners and losers in the competition for favor temporarily concealed profound factional tensions.
This political maneuvering was shortly about to escalate beyond the bounds of normal, managed aristocratic politics, culminating in the full-scale civil war that led to the decisive Battle of Valais-Dun.
The ability of this adolescent regime to host a meeting focused on continental strategy while simultaneously managing lethal internal feuds and promoting ecclesiastical renewal ultimately demonstrates the high-stakes, volatile, and functional state of Normandy just before its explosive culmination.
The entire period, therefore, must be seen as William's political and military apprenticeship. Every challenge detailed here, from the transactional politics of the English succession to the management of great families like the Beaumonts and Tosneys and the crucial alliance with the Reformist Church, taught the young Duke the precise mechanisms of power he would need to wield absolutely, first to secure Normandy and then to conquer England.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed learning something new. That's all for now, but in case you didn't notice, there are a lot more episodes on this subject available on this channel. If you're enjoying these historical podcasts, please like and subscribe and share with other history buffs.
While this is an AI recording, the research that has gone into this production is comprehensive and focuses on very specific moments in history, designed to bring as much detail to the listener as possible. Thanks again for listening in.